Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 2024 BGA State of the Industry report. We're really excited to have launched the report on Tuesday. And today we'd like to unpack some of the results that we found in this year's annual survey report. So each year, the BGA conducts a report through a survey, through its members and through the wider blockchain and gaming industry. And this year, with a record number of responses, we've been able to compile those and have a look at the state of the industry, what the professionals think, and where we're headed in 2025. So, hey Flav, thanks for joining me today for this presentation.
Hey Mel, happy to be here and super excited to share the takeaways for this year, which are super interesting. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting to see some of the statistics that have remained high, some of those that have moved, and some new statistics that we haven't seen before. So looking forward to unpacking all of those. Firstly, I wanted to ask you, is there anything about this year's report that you found specifically surprising or new that you weren't expecting compared to the results from last year, especially in terms of the demographics, the industry drivers, and the challenges that we see?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, I would say there is no surprise, like the number one benefit of blockchain, like we're going to talk about that, asset ownership. It's been the first one for the four report we did. So it's not a surprise, obviously, but I think it's also very easy to forget about what happened for the last 12 months, especially in Web3, because it's moving so fast. And when you see the kind of takeaways on this report, it reminds you the kind of trend you're seeing right now. And I think it was interesting to see the trend in terms of how to innovate, the kind of innovation we see in blockchain gaming through social interactions, like the play to airdrop, something we're going to talk about that, but also from that, new challenges with bots as one of the misconceptions as well, but also as one of the challenges of the industry. So I think the biggest surprise relies on the very, very good and insightful feedback we got from members and the professionals we interviewed. Wonderful testimonials, in my opinion, and they are sharing knowledge, very interesting takeaways from what they shared. And I think that really shine the whole report as a whole, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's a really great way to consolidate all the statistics is to have the industry professionals and experts share their views on those and what it looks like for them in the ecosystem. So there's a lot to unpack. There's lots of interesting information. So let's jump in a little bit to the demographics. And firstly, a 3 times increase on the number of survey participants compared to 2021. Whoops. So I think it's been great to see so many people participating in the result and wanting to have their say in the industry survey. Another statistic which is really interesting and I think quite exciting as well is that 52.5% for the first time of respondents in the survey of blockchain gaming professionals come from gaming and not crypto. So I think that's changed massively since the very first year of the report. And I thought that was a really interesting stat in terms of, the quality of games that we're seeing come out, how the industry is kind of maturing and moving towards creating great games and moving away from maybe the traditional or original play to earn model. What were your thoughts on this stat?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it highlights the quality of the ecosystem. I think that's something we saw at the end of last year, maybe a little bit before, like the kind of thing we were expecting to see to give a boost for the blockchain gaming ecosystem was to actually see professionals from the gaming industry to come to the Web3 world, if I could put it that way. So you got a lot of announcement from companies, game companies, blockchain game companies, saying that they actually involved a very important person in their CMO position, in their CEO position, CEO and whatever. So it was a big win and a big announcement at the time, and that's what the ecosystem needs. And when we see that result, it just translates the fact that more and more are coming into the space. But I think it's also highlighting the quality of the report. Like it's a testimonial of the quality of the kind of respondents we have, based on people who are not OGs, if we may say so, but actually people who actually wanted to be involved in this new ecosystem. So it's a very good metric, well, maybe one of the best for sure.
Yeah, and I think the stat is twofold. Is that one, there's a lot of gaming professionals coming into the Web3 space, but also there's a lot of gaming companies that are also entering the Web3 space as whole entities and building blockchain games. So I think on both counts, that makes it really exciting and makes our ecosystem richer as well with gaming experience. There's been some media coverage already of the report from VentureBeats, CoinDesk, and Blockchain Gamer Biz have all picked up on this as one of the key statistics. And the third demographic, not a huge surprise and something that's come up over the years, 17.3% female representation highlights an ongoing challenge with gender diversity. I think it's up a little bit from last year. I think last year we were at 16.9, so we've increased a little bit, but I know this is an issue that comes up a lot in our industry. I know in BGA we're working to try and be more inclusive, but what are your thoughts on this?
No, you're right. Yes, it's a little bit more than last year in terms of proportion. Like you said, it was 16.9. I mean, when we said that we actually increase massively the number of respondents for this year, it's actually not a very good result as well. So that's something we're fighting, as you were saying, in the BGA. That this highlights the kind of struggle we're having in our industry, which is not the only one. Like gaming is it's definitely showing some issues in that terms as well, although they try to improve. But I think it's also a good way for us to work from this metric to work on concrete things, activities the BGA will be doing, was doing as well, because we have a board, and we decided 2 years ago to have a 50-50 male-female representation. It's just the beginning of what we did. We have a lot of ideas with Mel and the team to do more than that for 2025, and it's going to be based on this result, hopefully improving the result for next year.
Yes, something that we always stay conscious of in the BGA. And I know we have some exciting news around female representation coming in 2025. So keep an eye out for future announcements. Okay, let's unpack a little bit the industry drivers. Not a surprise, but the first benefit of blockchain gaming is asset ownership. It's been the same for 4 years running. I'm not very surprised about that. That is, one of the core points of why Web3 is great for gaming. Are you surprised to see it still at the top of the industry drivers?
Not so much, as I was saying at the beginning. I think it's good because it means like that's fundamental we rely on. It's not just trend. So that's important to see that the ownership aspect of it is the first thing you want to say to explain someone about why blockchain in gaming. It's about owning your own asset the same way you actually own your assets offline, a bag or your favorite bag, your favorite controller or anything like that. You have the ability to exchange these kind of assets to anyone and do everything with that, have some liquidity with that. But actually why you cannot do that online with your in-game assets, because that's the example with gaming. But more than that, you can do more than that based on DeFi, GameFi and everything. So a lot of utility based on the ownership of in-game assets. And obviously from that, it's again defined as the number one benefit. So I'm not surprised for sure.
Yeah, and for me, if I couple that along with more gaming professionals coming into the Web3 space, it also feels like people are understanding the use case of Web3 technology for gaming, and that's why it will remain the number one driver of the industry. So yeah, interesting. And next, 4 out of 10 say that new model revenues and rewards are the next biggest benefits. What do you think from your side?
Yeah, that's true. I think that we also in like we 2 3 years ago the focus wasn't about the technology. It was about the technology and what you could do with it. Now it's more about how to make sure we are creating and building a sustainable model for our game. So based on what I say about the play to airdrop, the social fi aspect of your game, which are things we've seen with the questing services we've seen along the year. I think that's something based on what you should do as a game company. Like everything is matching because more game companies come into blockchain. You see the relevance of working on user acquisition, but monetization aspects of the game as well, and how you could actually monetize your game with blockchain. So obviously, new models are the emphasis for this year as the industry driver because it will translate the sustainability of the ecosystem. So not surprised, but it's very positive that we're seeing these results, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, especially for me, after having been at YGG Play Summit, where we actually spent a lot of time with the community, who are obviously at the end point of these new types of models and reward systems. I think that, obviously asset ownership, different types of revenue streams for games, but rewards for the community are really important in keeping the innovation and keeping the engagement and retention of the wider gaming community as well.
Although I know, and we're not going to have the time to explain that, but I really encourage everyone to go deep into the report because based on this and not on these only this metric, you see a split between what the, let's put it that way, the Asian market thinks and what the European and Western countries think about these kind of metric. And you see a little bit of not opposition, but they favor different things, I would say, which is super important based on the differences of the markets you're actually targeting as a business, as a game. So that's also interesting to see that as a whole, we're not speaking at one from one ecosystem, but you have some differences based on who you are, where you are, and who you target.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting and valuable data for projects that are building. So dig into the report and go deeper into those topics. And the last one of the key drivers here, which I find interesting compared to last year, is that 86.2% say traditional games and IPs moving into Web3 has had the greatest positive impact. And I thought that was interesting because last year we saw a few questions around Web2 companies coming into Web3, bringing their IPs, and also that Web2 companies coming into Web3 is going to be one of the key points of mass adoption. We've seen a few companies this year that have launched Web3 games, like Ubisoft, for example, who have joined us a number of times this year at different booths in different places, launching Champions Tactics and also Captain Laserhawk. There are also many others mentioned in the report as well who are doing different things in Web3. So I think this is an exciting stat. So what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's actually also a surprise for me as well. I think I really enjoyed the conversation we had during our side event at NFT, during NFT Paris in February this year, because we had the opportunity to have Sébastien Borger, but also Yatsu talking about that. The question I had for them was, who will drive innovation in our space? Who will be able to break the mass adoption aspects of blockchain gaming? Should it be the indie game developer who try to focus on innovation, or should it be actually the traditional games coming to Web3? And you saw a split between every one of the speakers because Yatsu obviously was all about focusing on the one who want to innovate. So the indie game developers who want to innovate in the space, and is really relying on them to actually drive adoption in the ecosystem, rather than other others were saying that it's good to see the Ubisoft and also specifically in South Korea, where you have a lot of big corporation, game corporation, not having a specific dedicated team, but having a side project with a dedicated team, but they are not part of the company, but they worked a little bit alongside them to let them innovate on their own term. I think it was good to see that as well. So it's good to see the actually the ecosystem is more looking into the Web2 world, coming to Web3 rather than focusing on, the indie games who are really into fully into Web3. So that's interesting.
And I think also from different companies that I've spoken to, there are a lot of Web2 indie games that are also moving into Web3 as well. And I think that also enriches the ecosystem and also maybe contributes to bringing more traditional game devs into the Web3 space. Cool. Okay, let's jump into the industry challenges. Not massively surprised here, but 53.9% say onboarding challenges and poor UX are still the industry's biggest challenge. And I know we speak to lots of projects within the BGA UX user acquisition also are two of the biggest challenges that they face in terms of launching and developing a Web3 game. What are your thoughts on this? Surprised or not?
No, I'm not surprised. Obviously, it's a challenge, but when you look at what happened in 2024, and that's why this number is actually it decreased from the last year, I think, because it's a challenge. We need to make it easier for player. Everyone knows that, but I think you also see that the biggest improvement in the ecosystem come from the ability for a lot of company to and games, but also infrastructure to suggest easy onboarding as well tool in terms of the wallet creation or exchanging tokens and everything, the marketplace and everything. So it's easier and easier for game developers to rely on infrastructure, which help the player to focus on the game rather than the blockchain layer, I'd say. So it's a challenge. We know that because it's a new technology, but I do know that you see a lot of improvement in the space. So that's a good thing.
So are you expecting this statistic to go down year on year? You said it's reduced from last year. So, or expecting or hoping for this statistic to reduce every year?
I mean, it depends on how you understand the question, because this is a challenge, because it's a big innovation in the space. So we have to face this challenge. But are we getting better and better? I think definitely. So we'll see a shift in terms of challenge next year. Maybe not so much, because what we're seeing is interesting. We're seeing more and more chains, protocols, layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, focusing on gaming as well. But how do you make it easy for any player to understand that? Do they have to? What kind of application you have as a player to play a game on Xi or playing a game on Say? So big challenges in terms of onboarding. So maybe that's why we still have a big number, but hopefully, yes, I hope it's going to be a smaller number for next year.
Okay, I'll pinpoint that for 2025, so we can we can come back to this and see if this is a stat that's slowly declining, which would be great. Okay, 66.3% say the main misconception against blockchain games is that they are a scam or Ponzi. This has remained as a challenge, or has been a challenge since the first year of the report. So I know that's something that we work on in the BGA, to look at different ways that we can communicate and look at our ecosystem, which I think is quite unique because it kind of transcends a number of kind of topics, from entertainment, creativity, gaming, and blockchain. So I feel like we're in quite a unique position, but yet we're lobbed in with the kind of wider crypto ecosystem. So still work to be done. What are your thoughts on this one?
I agree. This number also decreased as per last year. I think it was 70%. But on one hand, you're seeing a lot of countries, the US obviously, talking about crypto as a whole, as a real solution, financial solution for the country. So you're seeing more and more people understanding the value of blockchain and crypto as a whole. But on the other hand, obviously, you're seeing more and more problems of this ecosystem because it's still not mature enough. So you see a lot of scams. We cannot deny it as an industry. So you need to protect yourself, not your coin, not your key, not your key, not your coin. What is the word again?
Yeah,
I
not
lost
your
myself.
keys, not your crypto. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. Here we go. Thanks. Yeah, you have a lot of everything, which explain why we have a smaller number, I will guess, but still, it's a big challenge, and us, we know that very clearly. So we're not going to lie to everyone.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, we've seen some changes, some small changes in regulations this year. Mika, Jonam's law. There's been some movement. I mean, I guess changing legislation is a slow process, and obviously it's a very innovative industry. But I guess hopefully as time goes on and we have more regulation around, digital assets, for example, that people will have more confidence in Web3 gaming. What do you think?
I agree. Nothing much more to add to that. I think there is a lot to do, but still, we go into the right direction for sure.
Yeah. Okay, great. And the last of the industry challenges, or not the last, but the last big industry challenge here, is that 29.5% of the industry is also fighting the misconception that Web3 gaming is full of bots. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, it's one of the most surprising data I could see, in my opinion, because it's is it a misconception? Because it's also a problem in the gaming industry. Like every games, they are even the biggest one they are spending a lot of money to fight bots within their game. So obviously in blockchain gaming, it's still the same. So I wonder if these takeaway come from a lot of struggle we had based on what we saw in the news, like Pixels as an example, who did a lot of play to airdrop and reward the player based on the engagement they did within the game, which is wonderful. But they saw an influx of bots at the same times, which didn't help the player to stay within the game because they felt like, what's the point? But it's a part of it. Obviously, it's not everything. It's not every aspect of the game. So it's super surprising. So I would love to follow up on that for 2025 as well, seeing a little bit, maybe tackling that subject with the members to understand a little bit more about what they think about it. Is it a Web3 problem rather than a gaming problem? But it's still a big challenge, as our respondent says. So let's follow up.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the first time we've seen this statistic come into the report, which I think shows that the ecosystem is maturing. Okay, thanks for sharing your insights on the kind of key takeaways from the BGA. Okay, so let's run through, let's break down the statistics a little bit more and have a look at some of the key statistics for this year. Yeah. Okay, this one we've kind of looked at already, that we have a much bigger response base than we did in previous years, and that has steadily increased over the last 4 years, which is great to see, and really it makes me enthused for future reports that we can, get larger numbers and have bigger data pools and more statistics in terms of Web3 gaming. Is there anything you might want to add here?
No, you said it all. I think you're right. It's important for us to prove the quality of the report, and it comes from not only the feedback, but also the number of people who contributed. So super happy to see that.
Yeah, likewise. Also, we've kind of covered this one a little bit as well, but yeah, this was an exciting statistic for sure this year, and it will be interesting to see in 2025 how our ecosystem kind of shapes and which direction it takes in terms of the quality of games that come out of Web3. What are your thoughts here?
Again, agree with that, definitely. Yeah, I think we talked about that a little bit earlier, but it's definitely positive.
Yeah.
We talk about that too as well. Like we said, a lot of things will come from us. Some announcement will come from us in 2025. So I wouldn't say we're happy about it because it's not a good number, but we're happy we can rely on this number to define our activities for next year.
Yeah, and I think it's something that we factor into everything we do, and we do our best in terms of events, panel discussions. Obviously, you mentioned the board to include as many of the diverse faces of Web3 gaming, especially within our ecosystem and within our community, the BGA community as well, to bring everyone together and include as many diverse people as possible. Coming back to this one, I think we've unpacked this a little bit. I don't know if there's anything you would like to add here. And I don't know if there was anything more you wanted to say on this, because you mentioned some of the points of the report. Was there anything else you wanted to dive into here?
No new models for revenue and rewards. As we say, we saw innovative ideas coming from the blockchain game companies launching their games and try to rely on the blockchain to improve user acquisition and retention as well. So I think we're just at the beginning, but it was interesting to see that although the incentive often come from the ability to win token, so which translate the needs feels like you need to launch a token, which is a big responsibility. And we had so insightful conversation. The one I could suggest you to have a look at will be the panel we had with Gabby from YGG, Sebastian Borges as well, and Avalanche. We had as well in the conversation saying about the implication of launching a token. So yeah, you need to be aware, especially right now where we are in the middle of a lot of token launch. I think it's still something interesting to see, but something interesting to master as well. So that's our role in the BGA, to put you in contact with people who could help you to decide on things you should do and things you shouldn't do. So yeah.
Great, thanks. Let's move on to the next stat. We covered this one a little bit around traditional games and IPs moving into Web3. That has had the greatest positive impact, at least has had a very good positive impact and brought more eyeballs, I guess, onto the Web3 gaming space that might not have looked at it before due to misconceptions. Anything else that you might want to add here?
No, I think it was actually kind of the same last year as well in terms of the results. I think it was 19 or something like that. So it's quite the same number we're seeing. But obviously, you need to rely on big. You share the vision of blockchain. Sometimes you feel you feel alone about these, belief of blockchain will change everything. But when you see traditional games coming into Web3, that definitely translates the vision you have and the conviction you have as well. So it's all positive. So hopefully we're going to see that more and more. And actually in the report saying that we highlighted these, like the big corporation who make a big move in the blockchain gaming space, we highlighted a specific announcement, so you can go over it and see what they're doing and what they're preparing for 2025 as well.
Yeah, and it mentions some of the major players in the gaming space that are moving into Web3. So some interesting content there for sure. And I think where this has changed from 2023 is that in 2023 we were asking if people thought that traditional games coming into the space will have an impact. And now we're looking at what has had an impact in the space. So I feel like a lot has happened in 2024 to push our industry forward as well. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Maybe I can ask here, you work really closely with a lot of the members within BGA. What are you seeing that is the most exciting that tackles some of these challenges?
Different things, as I said, more and more chains. So seeing some companies trying to bridge everything which is happening on chain, but cross chain as well is definitely a big challenge to make it easier for the player to not have to rely on that challenge. But also what we've seen at the beginning of this year, I think I lost track of time, but the account abstraction, which was used by many people to make it easy for game developers as well to not rely on big gas fees as well, but could specifically not ask the players to rely on big gas fees, but maybe has the responsibility to to do it themselves, or to assign that to a specific chain because you have gasless blockchain, gasless protocols as well. So everything to make it easy for the player to just enjoy the game, but discover his ability to own specific items as well, and see specific rewards on chain.
Awesome. Okay, let's have a look at the next statistic. Yeah, I mean, misconception about blockchain games being a scam or Ponzi. I think this is for me a lot around communication and how we do communicate. Web3 gaming, that I think we are associated to crypto markets, so I think it's it's hard to remove ourselves totally and be apart from that because of the nature of Web3 games. But yeah, as we mentioned before, still lots of work for the BGA and also a lot of companies that are working in this sphere to look at the ways that we communicate and look at, I guess, sustainable models as well that can help, make it more concrete that games are not scams and Ponzi's, or Web3 games are not scams and Ponzi's. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think we talked about that earlier as well. But what I would say is you have to understand that on one hand, and on the other hand, maybe you can say that if we follow the plan accordingly to what will happen in terms of the crypto market next year, if we all follow the plan, it's going to be a booming market in the crypto world. And obviously, the good and the bad thing about that is the blockchain gaming space will rely on the Bitcoin move and altcoin season and everything in terms of influx of money into blockchain gaming, which is something we need and which is something we highlight in the report as well a little bit. Mostly Game 7 do that, but lack of funding was something we talk about in the report as well, because it's a big challenge. So influx of investment is something we hope we're going to see in 2025 based on the crypto markets gaining shape. So yeah, you have a little bit of everything. I think you have to play with the cards you have, as you like to say. So it's definitely a challenge because we're going to need to protect ourselves in these booming markets in terms of crypto, but also it happens new opportunities.
I think this also ties in with creating a strong community around the game that loves the game, that wants to play the game, so that you can create a more sustainable user base, and that isn't, that are not going to dump at the first opportunity. They're going to hold on because they believe in the project, they enjoy playing the game, and you've got that sense of community within it. I mean, are you seeing games working towards, really building this sustainable? Because I know they are, but just wanted to get your thoughts on this as well.
No, they are, but also you're right. Obviously, you're going to see people dumping a token because they have access to it through a airdrop. You're not going to change that. It depends on your in how you are incentivized to participate in a specific community. But a good example is Punji Penguins. Yes, it's an NFT collection, but it's an NFT collection with creating a massive ecosystem, and gaming is coming for them next year. They're going to announce crazy things next year on that with Polkadot, Dot Play, our member as well. So when they launched the token, obviously you saw a fluctuation of the token price, obviously a lot of pump and dump, but you 3 days after, you see the price stabilizing a little bit, which means like you see some trust within the ecosystem, which could be surprising based on what we saw for other tokens 2 or 3 years ago, or even 1 year ago. So it's positive for sure. It relies on community.
Yeah, and I think community is a core point, and something we'll talk about a bit more as well as we go through the Twitter lives when we unpack more of these results going forward in Jan as well. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, a little bit about the misconception that Web3 gaming is full of bots, and how does the industry tackle this? I think it's interesting what you were saying earlier. Yes, it's not necessarily only a Web3 problem, it's a gaming problem, and how how can that be tackled going forward?
Yeah, we have the chance to organize a lot of comp session offline and online as well, but offline is going to be very interesting to dedicate some time to talk about. But yeah, we will definitely try to engage comp session between members offline and online around that topic. And I think that's the last slide, but I would like to ask you, Mel, if you don't, that's okay because I have mine, but do you have one quote that you really loved in the report? Specific one.
There was a quote that I really loved in the report, but I have to find it.
So I
What?
can tell you mine because
Yes.
a lot of them, but I'm not so much into meme coin. I understand a little bit. I didn't understand much at the beginning of this year because my knowledge was based on what I saw 2, 3 years ago, and the dump and pump and dump narrative. But I really wanted to highlight what Christy Choi, co-founder of AO Labs Spacebar, said. I think it's a wonderful way to put it. Meme coins absolutely have a place in Web3 gaming as they've mastered what gaming and crypto fundamentally compete for: attention and entertainment value, which is so true. The success in driving AI agent narratives demonstrates their power to accelerate adoption, of new Web3 features and create instant community alignment through shared cultural touchpoints. Beyond speculation, meme coins can serve as powerful tools for social coordination, social aspect of it, community rewards, so true, we need that in gaming, and making Web3 more approachable, so onboarding aspect of it. Their viral nature fosters active participation with meme coin experiments in social coordination and AI integration already providing blueprints for engaging sustainable communities. And I had no idea if you did that with an AI tool, Christy, but for me, it opens my mind a lot, and I think it was a brilliant quote. So yeah, that's my best one.
I think this quote encompasses a lot of the topics that we've just unpacked, basically. So
Exactly.
it's like a really condensed overview of the different points about misconception, about community, about revenue streams. So yes,
Onboarding.
yeah,
Yeah.
nicely packaged in a quote. There were a few quotes I liked. And this was a quote that I liked because I just felt it kind of brought the sense of enthusiasm that I first felt when I entered the Web3 gaming space. And this is from Heidi Christine, CMO at Pixels. And I'll just read it out quickly. The magic of social first gaming is how it brings people together, turning gameplay into a space where real communities are born. When players aren't just playing but actively shaping the gameplay experience, they feel a sense of purpose, contributing to something bigger while building friendships along the way. This shared adventure and connection makes gaming more than just entertainment. It's what keeps millions coming back for more. And I just feel like that feels really inspiring for the industry, that you can really feel this sense of one, community, friendships, to excitement. And I just think that's something that Web3 gaming really brings to the table. So that was my that was my favorite quote for that reason.
It's a great one too. Yeah. So definitely one of them you could check in the report because, as I said, the thing I loved the most while reading this new report was the kind of quotes you could see, among a lot of different takeaways we talk about. But that's definitely the thing I was enjoying reading.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so much we've uncovered a very small part of the report in terms of talking about the key drivers, the key takeaways. But the report talks about so many more aspects and goes into much deeper detail on all of these points, from the social aspect to careers in blockchain, to deeper understanding of onboarding and UX. So there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot of great statistics. There's a lot of great quotes from many great actors within the industry. So yeah, please dive in and grab the info that's been collated from our industry, from the Web3 gaming ecosystem. Great. Any last words you want to say, Flav?
Nothing. Thanks, Mel, for for the time we had going into this report, and we're gonna, as usual, but specifically for this year, we're gonna use it within our conversation with the blockchain space, but the gaming space of it, because remember, our goal is to talk to the gaming industry, and based on what we have here, I think it's gonna make our life easier for sure.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, this is the first presentation, just to lay out the key statistics. We'll have a series of conversations throughout January, maybe going into February, unpacking different topics, and we'll be joined by lots of speakers from the BGA and beyond to unpack those together and get some industry insights. So thanks everyone for tuning in and listening. Thanks Flav for all your insights, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you. Bye.